come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, please call the roll.
Theostra?
Yes.
Butler?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Dan Stryland?
Here.
Carl Stone and Gregor Horst are absent.
The City Council has adopted a code of civility. As elected officials, we pledge to promote civility through extending respect to others, listening to understand, disagreeing without disrespect, engaging collaboratively, and speaking up to address incivility. We do have sound tonight, so this meeting is being recorded and broadcast for Pella TV. So anyone who wishes to speak to council, I would ask that you would approach that podium and microphone before you speak, so that those listening at home can hear your comments and see you on camera. Can I get a motion for approval of the tentative agenda?
So moved.
Support. Van Stryland, Hopkins. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Dan Stryland?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Theostra?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Motion passed. So at this time, I'm going to read a proclamation declaring January 2026 Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Pella. But before I do that, I'm going to ask Heather to come up and say a few words before I read the proclamation.
It'll be short and sweet. Our team would just like to thank everyone for the community support and the partnership that we have bonded this last year. We have worked really hard to be intentional with the relationship with our law enforcement, relationship in our community, bringing awareness and prevention. It's really important to educate our community, to educate our leaders, to educate our children and our parents on what it looks like with human trafficking, to educate them on preventative measures with the internet, safety features, and what that looks like. We've also started to begin to walk with some survivors this summer and into this fall, and it's been a huge blessing for us to be able to do that and to provide resources, and we wouldn't be able to do that without our community support. We have done that very well, and our community has embraced that with one of our survivors with that support. So we just really, really want to thank Pella and everybody else for standing with us very firmly in wanting to protect the survivors of trafficking and abuse.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for those words and for the work that you guys are all doing. Thank all of your peers that you have some of your group with you, so we appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you for helping us all become more aware of some of the issues. I think it's easy for us to not be aware, so thank you for that information. And I'm gonna read this proclamation, and then I'm gonna give a copy of it to you for the group. So, proclamation declaring January 2026 Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month in Pella, Iowa. Whereas the United States was founded upon the principle that all people are created with inalienable right to freedom, and added the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, making slavery illegal. And whereas slavery within the United States today is most often found in the form of forced labor and sex trafficking, which weakens our social fabric, increases violence and organized crime, and debases our humanity. And whereas the Iowa Network Against Human Trafficking and Slavery has been working since 2005 to abolish all forms of human trafficking through education, prevention, volunteerism, advocacy, and collaboration. And whereas even though awareness of this crime is growing, human trafficking continues to go unreported due to its isolating nature, the misunderstanding of its definition, and the lack of awareness about its indicators. And whereas increased community education on how to identify victims of human trafficking, along with the increased knowledge of local resources and services for those affected by these criminal actions, can help restore freedom and dignity to identified survivors, as well as help diminish the number of future victims. And whereas every business, community organization, faith community, family, and individual can make a difference by choosing products that are not made by forced labor, by working to protect our young people from sexual exploitation, and by addressing the problem of internet sex trafficking and pornography, and by becoming more aware of the problem and possible solutions. Now therefore, I, Don DeWard, Mayor of the City of Pella, do hereby proclaim the month of January 2026 as Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and encourage our citizens to become more informed on this topic, to be vigilant and report suspicious activity, and to work towards solutions and to end trafficking in all of its forms in our community. This is dated this 20th day of January 2026. So I think you guys want to get a couple pictures, so if the group wants to come up, we can do that. I'm going to, this is your copy of the proclamation to put wherever you'd like and use how you like. Oh, no. Jason, you want to come up? Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. All right, at this time we have opportunity for a public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda item, I'd ask that you please step forward to that microphone, state your name and address, and please try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Support. Manstrom and Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Manny, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
DeAnstruy,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, we'll open a public hearing regarding the community center alley reconstruction project bids. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item, and for those in attendance and those watching at home on Fiber, I'd like to direct your attention to the big board for a brief presentation on this item. As Mayor Ward stated, we have 2 resolutions on the agenda tonight. Both of them deal with the community center alley reconstruction project. Now this, we do have a description of the project, but just to orientate everyone here, the alley project that we're talking about right here, this is red highlighted area. Pella Public Library is located right over here. The community center is located right over here. We did conduct a bid letting on the project on January 13th, and as you can see, the spread between the bids was just over $276,000 for the low bid, all the way up to $444,000 for the project. The good news is the engineer's estimate was about $370,000, so the low bid was considerably under the engineer's estimate. So Heidi, let's go ahead, please. Now, the engineer on the project is Garden and Associates, and they are recommending awarding the project to Pella Concrete Contractors, which is the lowest responsible bidder, in the amount of $276,090.25. Council were to approve these resolutions this evening. We have the notice to proceed that will be issued sometime in the middle of May. We believe this project will take approximately 50 working days to complete once the notice to proceed is issued. Now, as far as the 2 resolutions that we're considering this evening, Resolution 6984 adopts the plan, specifications, form of contract, and also accepts the engineer's estimate of cost. Resolution 6985 ultimately awards the contract to Pella Concrete Contractors in the amount of $276,090.25. And City Administration is recommending approval of both resolutions this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any written comments, Mindy?
No written comments.
Council, any comments, questions?
Just to clarify, I think we're compelled or we're under the law to take the low bid, right? No?
Yeah.
Not always, or?
Yeah, in this case with governmental projects, is the lowest responsible bidder unless there's a valid reason why the lowest bidder is not an acceptable option.
All right, just wanted to clarify that, thank you.
Okay, anything else, council? Any comments from a member of the audience?
Dwight Young, 2509 Sculty Strut, but why are we doing this? That alley really doesn't seem to be in that bad a condition.
As far as the project is, the alley is in need of repair on it as well. The timing is somewhat important because we are also planning this calendar year to begin reconstruction of the Pella Community Center as well. So the thought is with the alley improvement project, you have the alley project done at the same time as the city's community center renovation.
Seems like a lot of money for a small gain there. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So moved. Hopkins, Vanstra, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Move on to resolution number 6984, entitled Resolution Adopting Plan Specifications, Form of Contract, and Estimate of Cost for the Community Center Alley Reconstruction. Assume there's nothing to add. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Van Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving to resolution number 6985, entitled Resolution Making Award of Construction Contract for the Community Center Alley Reconstruction. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Hopkins, Vanstra, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving to a public hearing on the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the city thereunder. Mike?
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. And what we have on the agenda this evening concerning this item is three action items. The first one's a motion and then two subsequent resolutions. But ultimately, both of them deal with, all three of them deal with, rather, a proposed loan in the amount of $245,000 for water capital revenue loan notes. And what the project would be this would be a third Jordan well for our community, and this is engineering design fees that we anticipate for both the well and the water transmission main associated with the third well. Now, as part of the loan that's being proposed this evening is an issuance through the state revolving fund, and this is a very attractive loan option for the city because engineering fees while the project is under construction would be charged at 0% in the design. So there would not be an interest rate until the project is actually substantially complete. At that time, this loan would be rolled in with the construction loan for the project. Now, generally, what we're looking at through the SRF loan project is an interest rate right around 3%, which we feel is very competitive and attractive under the bond market nowadays on this. And so, again, with these resolutions, let's go ahead, Heidi, with this. Is the first one that we have is the motion this evening, and that would be an engagement agreement with the Alders Law Firm. It's also our bond counsel for a flat fee of roughly just shy of $5,500. And that is assuming that we proceed with the loan document issuance on that as well. We also have a resolution this evening that would authorize a loan disbursement agreement in the amount of not to exceed $245,000. And then we also have the final resolution this evening is approving and authorizing a form of interim loan and disbursement agreement with Iowa Finance Authority, once again in an amount not to exceed $245,000. So what basically this does, if the city proceeds with the project, this authorizes a loan that we can choose, if city council chooses to proceed in the amount of $245,000. And this is once again for a third Jordan well for the community. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes tonight's presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any written comments?
No written comments.
Council, questions? Are we ready to start this process?
Yeah, what we'll have is we'll have an engineering agreement that'll be presented in the future on this, along with the reasons why for the third Jordan well as well. But again, we've already qualified through the state for the program with it, and we've also got the authorization to drill a third Jordan well, which is probably the more important thing in the matters as well. But we We believe from a staff standpoint, a third Jordan well is needed to supply the community on a long-term basis. So the answer is yes, we are ready to start the process.
Anything, council? Any comment from a member of the audience? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Hopkins? Banster? You're gonna have to speak up a little louder so everybody else can hear it, not just me. Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. A motion approving engagement agreement with Allers to act as bond counsel for the issuance of not to exceed $245,000 water revenue capital loan notes. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Ms. Stryland, is that Hopkins? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 6986 entitled Resolution Instituting Proceedings to Take Additional Action for the Authorization of a Loan and Disbursement Agreement and the Issuance of a Not to Exceed $245,000 Water Revenue Capital Loan Notes. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Ms. Stryland, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 6987 entitled A Resolution Approving and Authorizing a Form of Interim Loan and Disbursement Agreement by and between the City of Pella, Iowa and the Iowa Finance Authority and authorizing and providing for the issuance and securing the payment of $245,000 water revenue capital loan notes anticipation project note series 2026 of the City of Pella, Iowa under the provisions of the Code of Iowa and providing for a method of payment of said note. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Ms. Stryland, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. New Class C retail alcohol license with outdoor service for Nederlanders Golf or Tappan Golf. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. And as Mayor DeWard stated, what we're issuing this evening or considering issuing this evening is a new Class C liquor license for Nederlanders. As Mayor DeWard stated, the reason for this request is we've had a change in ownership of the entity, and the new owners, which are Richard Phillips and Andrea Allison, have informed staff that they do not plan to change any of the current use of Nederlanders on this. Now, legally important to note, the application's been leaving online in the state of Iowa, and staff is recommending approval this evening.
Thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Hopkins, Banster, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. Mike, you gonna give us an update on the Indoor Recreation Aquatic Center change order summary?
Well, yes, I will certainly try on this, and I'd also ask Councilmember Butler, Chairperson, to chime in with any additional information that I may. As far as the change orders are concerned with the project and our administrative change orders, the council is aware with it. We've established a committee. The committee is made up of Councilmember Butler, myself, and our engineer, Mr. Bob Beanster, on it. We have authorization to issue change orders for the project in the amount of up to $200,000 or a single change order in the amount of $20,000. And it's very important when we talk about change orders on this type of project. The rec center is roughly a $30 million project, and there will be change orders on the project. The good news is the change orders today, we believe ultimately the change orders for the project will be under the budgeted amount or contingency amount, which was $900,000 for the project, and that was about 3% of the total project cost. Now, to date on this, we've issued roughly about $155,000 worth of change orders, and we do have a summary of the project up there, and we have a remaining authorization of just shy of $46,000 on this as well. Now, equally important, probably more importantly, is we have some pictures we'd like to share with the rec center. So let's go ahead, Heidi, on the construction that we have here. And again, this is an overview of it. It's just a schematic design of the frame of the building that's currently being constructed. So Heidi, let's go ahead, please. And then we do have a picture from the south elevation of the building, as well as the color elevation of what the finished product will be looking at. And as you can see, the contractor is making considerable progress on the project as well. So let's go ahead, Heidi, please. And this is a picture from the inside of the competition swimming pool. So once again, we have what it currently looks like and ultimately what will be constructed with it. Now, as far as the project is concerned, we believe that the project will be substantially complete sometime right around June or July of 2027. From an operational standpoint, we are making plans to open the rec center up in the summer of 2027. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I know that was a very brief update on the project, and I'd ask for Councilmember Butler if you have anything additional to add on the administrative committee.
No, I don't. I think it's interesting how the change orders have involved, and our engineer does a good job of telling where the change order originated, whether it was with the contractor or with the designer. Some of them have been improvements on the way the different switches are. We've had change orders to shore up the foundation and make sure the foundation is good, where there was soil that was not suitable. And then on top of all that, the panels, the big panels of concrete you saw there, the manufacturer of those changed the design on building that stuff between the design of the Jive Arrow's design and us getting the stuff. So they had to refigure out how to hook it all together. So it's slowed down though. They have slowed down. But they're all interesting, and some have been Shive's problem, and some have been the contractor has discovered the problem.
Well, you can see some of that precast is going up, so
Yeah.
it's taking shape.
Yeah.
I can't believe those guys work with that steel in this cold air that they do.
Yeah. It looks like a cold spot, doesn't it?
All right, thanks, John. Thanks, Mike. Any questions? Anyone?
This might be an unfair question. Do you think you're gonna exceed that $200,000 ceiling for these small change orders? Because I'd sure rather have you guys do these small ones rather than each one go to council.
If we do exceed it, we'll be back with additional authorization. And what we've been monitoring, at least I've been from my standpoint, is we had $900,000 budgeted for change orders. Ultimately, we think the change orders for the project will be considerably less than $900,000 is probably the easiest way to answer it. These smaller change orders, we may need to increase the committee's authorization. If we need to increase the authorization before that occurs, we'll be back requesting that for council and the reasons for that as well.
Okay.
And we did it this way to avoid delays in the construction.
And I believe we already went from 100 to 200 once, didn't we?
Yeah, that's correct.
So
Okay.
it's a lot easier to change the ceiling than to have some of these change orders delayed by 2 weeks waiting for a council meeting. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll move on. Resolution number 6988, entitled Resolution Setting Dates of a Consultation and a Public Hearing on a Proposed Amendment to Proposed Amendment number 2 to the Lely Urban Renewal Plan in the City of Pella, State of Iowa. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I'd like to direct everyone's attention to the big board for a presentation on this item. As Mayor DeWart stated this evening, what we're discussing is the formation of an amendment to the existing urban renewal plan that we have for Lely. And just the easiest way to describe this, what this resolution really does is it sets the public hearing date for February 17th, 2026 to discuss the proposed amendment on this, and also sets the consultation date that we'll have with both the associated taxing districts, which are the 2 counties involved in the Pella Community School District. Now, the easiest way to look at this is currently we have an urban renewal plan. That's the Lely Urban Renewal Plan. It's listed in red. Everything that you see in green is the proposed new urban renewal plan that's being added for this. Now, one of the reasons we are looking at urban renewal plans, this is the Lely Urban Renewal Plan. Purpose of this was to establish or encourage additional, and also help facilitate additional commercial and industrial development within our community. And the projects that we're looking to add along with this amendment would be the proposed University Street and Baseline Drive Extension project that we're going to be seeking authorization this evening on, with that to begin that process. We also have a new industrial park that the developers is currently on the market and active as well. That's currently bare ground out here as well, so it's a good time to capture those valuations and hopefully be able to capture, more importantly, incremental commercial and industrial valuations that may go into that as well. And then in addition, we also have a project here that will be constructed at some point in time, depending on council's direction on this. This would be reconstruction of University Street from East 16th Street to just past Pella Christian High School as well. We have the associated dollar amounts associated with this. Please keep in mind as we talk about dollar amounts and estimates on these projects, we have to go a little bit high on these projects because it's very expensive to amend projects to increase estimated cost on projects. So this is one case where we try to measure twice and cut once when we form urban renewal plans, so our estimates are always going to be a little high. And that's a nice segue when we look at the last project that we have is future economic development agreements. We are not proposing anything specific, but I can tell you that if we do have a commercial entity that requests economic development incentives and council deems it's worthy of that, we want to make sure that we have that in this agreement, because the first thing that will happen is we'll have to amend the agreement and incur additional legal fees to award economic development incentives. So this is kind of a future, could be incentives out there, does not guarantee incentives, but it just gives council the ability to authorize them if they deem something's worthy in the future. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. Now, on this, I think we've explained a lot of this, and we've also said the consultation date, I would like to mention, Mr. Mayor, is January 29th, and that'll be the date that we'll meet with both Marion and Mahaska County, along with the Pella Community School District, to answer any questions that they may have on the proposed urban renewal plan. So, with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of the resolution this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Banstrup and Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck?
Yes.
Dan Stryland?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes. Motion passed. Resolution number 6989, entitled Resolution Ordering Construction of the University Street and Baseline Drive Extension and fixing a date for the hearing thereon and taking of bids therefore. Mike?
Oh, yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. As Mayor Ward stated, what we're talking about this evening is the extension of University Street from 240th Avenue out to 250th Avenue, and also the extension of Baseline Drive to the north to connect to the newly extended University Street. Now, once the street segment is constructed, this primary streets segment, it will serve as the primary access for the new indoor recreation center that is currently being constructed, and that recreation center is going to be located right over here. So here's the extension of Baseline Drive. University Street is right over here. We do have a description of the project over here, as well as just the construction estimated cost on the project. Now, the real meat and potatoes of this resolution is what we're really doing is we're establishing March 17th is the public hearing date for the project, and you're giving staff authorization to seek bids on this project as well. So what the plan is the council order to approve this resolution. We'll conduct a bid letting on this project on March 10th, hold the public hearing on March 17th. And hopefully we'll have a contract worthy to proceed with construction. If so, we anticipate issuing a notice to proceed on that project on March 30th. And if everything goes on time and as scheduled in construction, which is always a little iffy, it's rather weather depending on it, the project has a chance to be completed by early November this year. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of the resolution this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Van Stryland, Hopkins. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Dan Stryland?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
DeAnstruck?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 6990, entitled Resolution Ordering Construction of the Apron Expansion Paving, Pella Municipal Airport 2026, and fixing a date for hearing thereon and taking of bids therefore. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and once again, we have a very similar resolution. What we're really doing on, first of all, the project we're discussing this evening is the apron expansion project at the municipal airport. What this resolution, once again, is establishes March 3rd as the public hearing date on this project. It also gives staff authorization to seek bids on the project. A little bit about this project, we do have an expansion of the project, and this is being proposed to also accommodate Pella Corporation's new hangar that is going to be located over here. The current corporate hangars are located just right to the north of this over here. Now, as far as the project is concerned, the apron expansion project, the overall estimated cost of this is $552,000. We would like to mention that we have secured a grant through the state of Iowa to provide funding up to a maximum of $365,000 for this project. Now, if council were to approve this resolution this evening, we conduct a bid letting on this project on February 24th. Public hearing would be on March 3rd. If council proceeds with the construction contract, we'd have a final completion on September 25th of this year. And once again, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval approval of the resolution this evening.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support?
Hopkins and Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 6991, entitled Resolution Fixing Date for a Public Hearing on a Proposed First Amendment to Hangar Lease between the City of Pella and Vermeer Manufacturing Company and providing for publication of notice thereof. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a proposed ground lease amendment for Vermeer Corporation, and the reason for this ground lease amendment is we're doing two things. We're adjusting the square foot lease rate for this to be a standard 30 cent per square foot that we're using for all airport corporate hangars at the airport. This was the rate that was used for Pella Corporation's new hangar. And the second item is that we're actually adjusting the geographical area of the lease to reflect what is actually being leased by the applicant, which in this case is Vermeer Corporation. So how this plays out with the new rental rate that we have and also the increased geographical area, the current lease, as stated in their lease agreement, just includes the box hangar area, when in reality they're using an area that is larger than that as well. What this means is the annual rental increase will be from $1,000 up to $5,442, which is going to be proposed on February 3rd, which is the public hearing date for this resolution. So once again, there'll be considerably more details shared on February 3rd, but this resolution just authorizes the public hearing date for February 3rd for the proposed ground lease amendment with Vermeer Corporation.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Manstra, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 6992, entitled Resolution of Pella City Council approving final plat of Southview Ridge. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. We have a proposed final plan, as Mayor Ward stated, for Southview Ridge. And ultimately, what's being proposed with this near 3-acre lot is 9 residential lots that we have pictured up on the big board as well. It is important to note the City's Planning and Zoning Commission did consider this final plat at their November 24th meeting and unanimously approved the final plat. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. We do have a picture of the geographical location of this subdivision on the next sheet, next slide. So let's go ahead, Heidi, to 19, please. And again, this is directly located across from the hotel at Boston as well with it. And so I guess to take a step back, the final plat was the previous resolution. What I'm showing you here is the resolution accepting the public improvements. I just wanted to show where this was on Boston Drive. It's right across, I believe, from the Lynx Hotel on there as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of the plat as presented this evening.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Manstra and Stryland, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed. Resolution number 6993, entitled Resolution Accepting Public Improvements for the Southview Ridge Subdivision. I think that's the slide you want to talk
Yeah,
about
Mr.
now.
Mayor, I kind of jumped ahead tonight, got ahead of myself. Associated with any plat is typically public improvements, and what we have this evening, that the plat that we just approved is acceptance of the public improvements that were constructed by the developer. The developer built them according to city standards, and they are dedicating them to the city at no cost to the City of Pella. And we do have a description up on the big board of the public improvements being proposed to be accepted this evening. And Mr. Mayor, we are recommending acceptance of the public improvements for Southview Ridge subdivision.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So.
Support.
Van Strylen, Manstra. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Danstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed. Resolution number 6994, entitled Resolution Accepting the Fiscal Year 24-25 Annual Audit. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Mr. Andy Grice with Bergen KDV. Andy's a shareholder with Bergen KDV, and they recently completed their audit of the city's financial statements. And we're talking about the year that ended on June 30th, 2025. We do have some of the highlights listed on my slide, and I won't steal a lot of Andy's thunder, but I would like to state is we've been working very, very hard at the City of Pella on the general fund. As council has been aware, it's been very trying times for city governments with this, and we are happy to report for the audit that we did have an increase in the general fund of just shy of $127,000 for this last year. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to Mr. Andy. So go right ahead, Andy.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for having me here tonight. Here to present the audit results for the year ended June 30th, 2025. In your agenda packets, there are two documents, one being the city's financial statements and the other being our communications letter. Within the city's financial statements is our independent auditor's report. I did want to highlight a couple things from there. One being our role as your auditor, and then also the role of management. The responsibility for the financial statements does lie with management, and it's our role as your auditor to come in, provide an audit on those financial statements, to provide assurance as to whether we believe those financial statements to be fairly stated in all material respects. Happy to report that we are providing a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the best that we can give as your auditor. In addition to that, we also provide our government auditing standards report. This report talks about our consideration of internal control over financial reporting. We're required to look at your policies and procedures around financial reporting, and we are required to report to you any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses that come to our attention as part of that process. We did identify one material weakness, and that's a lack of segregation of accounting duties. That is a common finding for a city of your size, meaning that certain accounting duties, there is some overlap in terms of access to perform multiple functions. So something to, for City Council to continue to be aware of, but again, something that many cities struggle with, and really is something that would be addressed through, adding some additional staff. The second finding that we have is at a significant deficiency level. That's a level below material weakness. We did have an instance of procurement policies not being effectively implemented, so did acknowledge that in the audit report as well. The last piece of reporting that we have is our reporting on Iowa legal compliance. So there's certain state statutes that we're required to report on, as indicated by the state auditor's office. We did have 4 findings to report this year. One of those findings relates to reporting any funds that have a deficit fund balance at the end of the year. There were several funds that did have a deficit fund balance. We did acknowledge those. Also, whenever there's disbursements or expenditures that exceed budgeted amounts, we have to acknowledge those, and we have those noted within that report. We also noted some disbursements where we did not see adequate documentation in place, or we couldn't determine allowability based on current policies and procedures. We have those noted as well. And then lastly, there were certain transfers that we noted where we didn't see formal resolution. So noted those lastly in that report. The next part of the presentation tonight highlights the financial trend analysis that's included in the communications letter. That communications letter does include several bits of information, all required communication in accordance with audit standards, some emerging issues, which talk about some new accounting standards in the future, and then again, this financial analysis that does provide some trend data. We start by taking a look at the general fund balance here over the last 5 years, and we did see that fund balance did increase here in 2025 by about 3%, increasing to $4,152,000. We also wanted to highlight the city's fund balance policy. That does indicate that there is a policy in place to maintain a minimum fund balance of 35% of operating expenses. The unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was at 32.2% of 2025 general fund expenditures, so just under that policy. The next chart highlights the general fund sources of revenue as a pie chart comparing 2025 to 2024, which highlights that highlights the majority of the general fund revenues come from property taxes, about 50% overall. That was a little bit of a decrease from 2024, which was at 53%. The most significant change was in that miscellaneous category that went from 4% back in 2024 of overall general fund revenues up to 8%, and that was due to some contributions related to ambulance transportation and the contributions for the purchase of a new ambulance. All other categories remain pretty consistent there with the prior year. The next chart highlights same categories there, but gives the overall history there over the last 5 years. And do see here in 2025 that there was an increase in property taxes, which increased from about $5.2 million up to about $5.6 million. That was a $390,000 increase due to an increase in levy. We also saw an increase in charges for services of about $200,000. That was a result of an increase in rates, as well as more activity in the golf course. And then again, miscellaneous revenue increasing with an increase in donations again for the ambulance. The next chart highlights the general fund expenditures and how those are allocated by function. Really no significant changes in that allocation. Comparing 2024 to 2025, the majority of general fund expenditures going to public safety function at about 43%, and then culture and recreation at 38%. Next chart highlights those same functions, but just gives a 5-year history here, and we did see that here in 2025 that there was an increase in overall expenditures of about $785,000. Most of that had to do with an increase in wages and benefits, as well as additional part-time and full-time staff being added, and that occurred in public safety, which increased about $385,000, as well as culture and recreation, which increased about $498,000. Again, really due to wages and benefits increasing, additional staffing, but also some purchases of equipment in that culture and recreation category. The next few slides will cover the city's proprietary funds. These do present a bit differently in that these are enterprise funds. They operate like a business. And so we do take a look to see as whether revenues are sufficient to cover the expenses for providing these services. Here in 2025, we did see an increase in total revenues in the water fund. And we also saw expenses remain fairly flat. And so we did see that operating income improve from a negative $348,000 back in 2024 to a negative $119,000. And that includes depreciation, which is a non-cash operating expenditure or expense. And so we also provide that same data or income without depreciation, just to give a better idea in terms of cash flow in that fund, which was positive of just over $1 million. Next, we take a look at the wastewater fund. The wastewater fund, did see fairly flat total revenues overall, and did see a decrease in total expenses. There was a nutrient study back in 2024, which elevated expenditures at that time frame. So we did see an improvement in the overall performance in this fund. There was a loss back in 2024 of about $187,000, and a loss here in 2025 of about $25,000. Again, excluding depreciation, did see positive operations of about $874,000. The next chart highlights the electric fund operations. We did see a decline in total revenues overall. Back in 2024, total revenues were a bit elevated. There was a write-off of a prior receivable that was ultimately collected back in 2024. So again, did elevate revenues in that time frame, but overall, did see an overall net income or an income in that fund of about $1.9 million. Compared to, again, $2.5 million back in 2024, being, again, elevated with that collection. And then if you take, again, exclude depreciation expense, did see positive operations in that fund of about $4.1 million. Did also wanted to highlight the telecommunications fund. This is a relatively new fund. Back in 2021, with some of the startup costs, that did experience an operating loss in that year of about $950,000. As operations continued, we did see that turn positive back in 2023, and has been positive since that time. And then just with a small loss back in 2024, but overall did see a overall positive operating income of about $211,000 here for 2025, and then excluding depreciation, positive about $613,000. That has improved the overall net position in this fund to a negative $748,000, which is the best in the years presented, so continuing to move in the right direction there. Next couple slides, just wanted to highlight the tax rate and tax levy. In 2025, there was an increase in the tax rate. It had been flat since 2021, so that increased from 10.2% up to about 10.75%. And then also highlighted on the next slide is the related increase in levy, which did increase here in 2025 to $7.2 million compared to $6.4 million back in 2024. That's a high-level look at the audit report as well as that financial analysis. Appreciate the city having me here tonight, and next I'd just like to open it up for any questions.
I had a few questions on your initial slides. One, you talked about segregation of duties, and I've never seen an audit that doesn't have segregation of duties. One, that's kind of, because I think every government or every business that would segregate to the extent that you'd like would probably make them go broke. But one of the things you talked about, adjustments both in the utilities and general. Could there be to satisfy that, in you folks' opinion, could there be a level that any adjustment above X dollars gets reviewed by somebody else, so that you'd have two sets of eyes on whatever material would be defined at that point?
Sure, and yeah, that material weakness level means there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement could occur and be undetected. And, disbursements would be kind of one area, to review, but when thinking about the financial statements overall, it's really where a misstatement could occur, anywhere within the financial statements. Capital assets being overstated, certain revenue streams, being, available and recorded properly. So it's just really being able to have sufficient individuals in each of the significant accounting functions when it comes to payroll, disbursements, receipts, financial reporting, year-end closing process, to be able to really, being able to have that ability to identify errors should they occur.
Yeah, because when I saw adjustments, I kind of viewed that as somebody went back and changed something.
Sure.
Because very legitimate, an error, missed in another account, that if any of those should be, just have two sets of eyes on them.
And that can be helpful, especially to help mitigate that condition. It wouldn't eliminate that condition, so to speak, but would help to kind of, identify, abnormalities, and instances of potential errors that could occur in that process. So I agree that could help to mitigate and compensate for that condition.
And then the other one was that second thing that kind of had the foreboding title of non-compliance with laws and regulations, violations of contract provisions or grant agreements. Those four items that you had mentioned, they didn't really seem to fit in those categories, or maybe they did and I was just misunderstanding it.
Sure. So you're mentioning the government auditing standards report. There's a compliance section there, and that relates to areas where we believe there to be material non-compliance to your financial statements. And none of the conditions that were reported under that Iowa legal compliance section we believe to be a material item. So those are purely just to satisfy the required reporting by the Iowa State auditors.
And so I imagine those what I would call individual items within those categories, that was left with staff here, so that they know which specific items, like when you talked about a deficit fund balance and questionable disbursements, those were given to the right folks here.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I had. Oh, well, the only other thing I was going to say, you mentioned that the tax levy was flat since 21, and that's only
Right.
because you go back to 21. How far does it go back? It was at
Yeah, it would have been back to 2002, so.
So I had a question about making adjustments, because we all make mistakes. And every system is different, so I would expect that in this system that if a mistake was found, an adjustment would have to be made by a separate entry.
Correct.
Okay, you can't go back and adjust the original entry.
I hope not.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. I mean, I can do that in my books, because I have a very simple system. Here, it shouldn't be done that way. It should be a general ledger, journal entry, and then those would be available in a report.
Correct.
So we can see that. Okay. We all make mistakes.
That's true.
And the worst of it is, one mistake leads to two more, it seems. It's been my experience. Thank you.
So there's obviously volumes of information in this audit report. The question I had those items that you flagged or for discussion, obviously you give us a management letter which kind of spells out the discussions and stuff. In your discussions with staff and management, found that a willingness to correct any issues in that. You didn't have any issues with management responding to your questions.
Not at all.
And give us assurance that staff is willing to have the discussion with you guys and respond appropriately.
Absolutely. Had a lot of great questions, a lot of curiosity, wanting to do things right. So appreciate the collaborative approach to those, just to kind of get some more information on that.
Sometimes the language sounds kind of ominous, but I'm a former auditor, so I understand. Anything else? All right, then I'll entertain a motion for approval of the 2020 or 24-25 audit report.
So moved.
Manstra, Hopkins, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Steenstra.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Thank you for being here and thank you for your work. Appreciate it. Can I get a motion for approval of the abstract of bills number 2191? Hopkins, Van Strylen, any discussion or questions? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Steenstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Motion passed. Council member, have any other business you'd like to have addressed this evening? Any member of the public have any other business that you'd like to have addressed this evening? If so, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Right now, 2509 Sculpey-Strauss. I wonder, on the renovation of the former high school building, what's the status of that project?
The community center?
What?
The community center?
The
Yes.
communities,
Yeah.
I think he's referencing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually going to be a presentation we're planning on, I believe it might even be February 17th for that project, for the consultant, or for our engineer's request to go out to bid, so we'll be talking about that on February 17th. But it is scheduled to go out for construction bids this spring, and that's assuming that we can wrap up the final details on the project. But if council were to proceed with the construction contract this spring, construction could start on the community center in May/June of this year.
So the design is done?
Yeah, the consultant's completed his final design. Before we go out to bids, we're gonna have an information session just to make sure everybody's on the same page on the final design and what's being proposed to send out the construction documents, and that's scheduled for February 17th.
February 17th.
Yeah.
Will the theater be able to be used while the renovation's going on?
No, the building will be closed while the renovation's going on, and right now the engineer thinks that it should be right around 12 months of construction. We're actually planning from the staff standpoint a little bit longer than that, but the building will be closed to the public during the reconstruction.
Okay. What's the status of a proposed city office building on South Main?
On 215 Main Street, we'll have an information session on that that'll either be on February 3rd or February 17th as well on that project. So again, with this, we're working on a change order, the final change order on the project, and that'll be presented to council during policy and planning on February 3rd or the 17th.
So, do you have any estimate of when it might be complete?
When it might be complete, we'll be talking about that on February 3rd on that. So we'll be having 2 sessions on it. There'll be a policy and planning session, and there'll be formal consideration at a subsequent meeting. So depending on when that council direction we receive by council, that's gonna impact the timing of the project. There'll be more details on the 3rd.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, then we are going to adjourn to policy and planning. We're gonna first get an update on the comprehensive plan.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Mr. Christopher Shires from Confluence this evening to give us an update on the city's comprehensive plan. So I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to Mr. Shires.
All right. Mike, thank you. Chris Shires, principal with Confluence, 525 17th Street, Des Moines, Iowa. Mayor and Council, thank you for giving me a bit of your time tonight. In your packet, I know it is a long presentation. I will go quickly through it. It's the same information we have shared with your technical advisory committee for this conference plan update. But there's a lot of good information that I want to make sure is in front of you. So I want to give an update on where we're at with the process, the project scope and schedule, and then do that recap of our public engagement. Everything that we've heard from the community members in the process we went about that, as well as our stakeholder interviews, and then those results. And then I want to pause after I've gone through those results and those big takeaways to make sure that if you have any questions for me, any surprises, that you can share that with me, and we'll go through what's next. And so with that, we've broken down this comprehensive plan plus zoning code update into a 5-phase process. And we're now in the beginning of phase 3. And I know you can't quite see that schedule. It is on our project website for more detail. But this is more than a year-long process. This does take time. There's a lot of effort involved, a lot of work with your community stakeholders as well. So a little bit on that public engagement overview. We did a series of interviews with the stakeholders. We had 2 pop-up events, as well as a really well-attended public input workshop. And we've had our online engagement website. The major takeaway being that we used a lot of different methodologies to hit people at various locations, phases, stages. Not everybody can show up to a public meeting. Some do want to participate online. Some were getting them when they're at a special event. And others we have targeted to try to get a good cross-section from the community. And I feel very confident that we've really uncovered all the big topics and ideas and issues and opportunities community-wide. And so this chart just shows the various techniques we used at our public engagement events, that we did reach out to the public in various forms, both physically with yard signs as well as social media posts. We had great success with your stakeholder interviews, especially with people being very busy, not being able to attend public meetings. These one-on-one interviews are incredibly valuable to us. People are much more candid with us one-on-one than they tend to be in a public setting. So this is a great way for us to get very direct feedback. We reached out to 32 individuals, and we received 27 folks that we were able to meet with. So a good cross-section of your community, a lot of your community leaders, various interest groups, and they were frankly a lot of fun to meet with. There's a lot of wonderful people in your community, as you well know. Now, when we go through and just kind of look at, I'm going to hit just some of the highlights. There's a lot in here. When we look at, opportunities, it's a great place to look or work. It's good practices for how we share our costs on infrastructure. So even some of the decision making you've been making tonight related to urban renewal and TIF. We do look at, and this will come into our planning on where are those next areas to grow. We have great medical services, great park amenities. Big Rock Park being another great amenity for the community. Concerns, daycare, and these are concerns we actually hear in a lot of communities in the Midwest. The concern with daycare being high, concern with housing availability as well as cost, aging infrastructure, all those kind of standard things, keeping our youth here. When we look at some of the big ideas, we want to push more on the historic preservation, and these are things you're doing, but your community is saying maybe we want more of. Tiered growth map system, this is something I'll bring up later. Reserving areas for future business park growth, considering business incubator program, and then I love this one, always wanting more trails. We want more parks and rec amenity. You got a lot, we always want more. So we definitely want to convey that from the public. That was from the stakeholders. And then some of the more physical in-person events, we had a lot of different methods where we received input. So we've summarized that, some of the big words, if you describe Pella in one big word, what are we hearing? Vibrant, unique, conservative, amazing, a lot of positive words in there. What's your favorite place? The square, downtown, Central Park, the library, reasons you live here. And this is a little bit unique. Often we hear in a community in kind of a location like Pella that it'd be more of I grew up here, that'd be one of the top voters, but it's I work here because of the general quality of life, size of the community, and our schools being really top vote getters. So that definitely stood out to us. A couple other things that stood out to us is this, how do you rate the average quality of life here in Pella on a 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the best? 8.4. I want to tell you from doing this all over the Midwest, that's an extremely high score. We don't tend to get into the middle 8s. Then when we look, do you think that quality of life is going to get better, worse, stay the same? I don't know. Another really telling metric for us on the sentiment of your community members, and you've got the majority saying it's going to improve or stay the same when you're already at a high level. That's a really positive as far as at least a sampling of who's here. Then when we ask folks, what are those big opportunities? Volunteerism, career advancement, retaining our youth, affordable housing, remaining historic. Balancing history with culture, inclusivity, cost of housing, lack of bike trails, losing our history, keeping our youth. Well, that's on the concern side, so you can kind of see if I go back, opportunity, concern, it's a little bit of a two-way street. This is what we're excited about, but we want to make sure we're watching out for the future. Best change in the last 5 years, business growth, parks, new people moving to town, our new rec center, growth and development. And again, asking a different segment of folks that same quality of life, 8.24 on that 10-point scale, walkability, bikeability, high, general satisfaction, growth and development. We start to trail down a little bit more, but you're still on the, we want to see more. We think these are important. When we talk about housing, you see that concern showing up on housing availability and price, we're getting a lower score. And then community pride, off the charts for how when we calculate this in other communities, 8.7, high pride. I don't think that should be a surprise to you. When we start to priority rank, ask folks, what's the number one priority? We know we can't do everything. Money is limited, time is limited, but housing, entry-level single-family homes, mid-level single-family homes, preserving our older homes being top. Parks and trails, splash pad, general park update, maintenance, more trails again, reoccurring theme there. Multimodal transportation, just the fancy word to say all the different ways we get around, not just by car, sidewalk network, the bike paths, shared trail paths, and then transit, bus service, or other ways we can get folks around without a car. City programs, city beautification, health and wellness programs, programming for young professionals, events, groups. People love the special events that go on here. And then streetscape, so street trees, landscaping, public art, crosswalks. When we look at some of the development patterns, solidly wanting to see that traditional single family as well as some multifamily. Looking at transportation, those shared use paths, Parks and Rec, what's more preferred, those top images, the types of development, definitely more of a downtown mixed use, kind of that walk-up urban, 3-story urban. Then we asked a little bit about on the mapping activity, how would you grow the city? Got a lot of feedback on trails and thoughts of where new business and housing development could occur. And then we also, in our mapping activity online, had a great participation on our online engagement website, sharing a lot of these little pin drops of pinpoints of different ideas, concerns, things they like, things they want to see better. So a lot of love around downtown, some of our parks. Needs improvement. One of the big things was being able to walk across the highway. How can we cross, especially with all that new housing and retail barriers to that. And this map here shows when people actually took some time to draw on some trail segments, some linkages. And you can see those overlapping where different folks are drawing with the same ideas. And that'll really help inform some of the recommendations we'll be making to you, the Planning Commission, and your Technical Advisory Committee. So, other overview comments, things that people wanted to make sure we heard, that concern with the cost of housing, activities for adults, indoor, outdoor rec, preserving our history, protecting our older buildings, and of course, road improvements. Many, many different topics. I'm just gonna keep going here. We had a good participation, so when we look online, had that quite that age range, but what's really interesting is the number of people that participated that probably have been in Pella lifelong or 20 plus years. In fact, we realized we should have broken that segment out a little bit higher to really understand how long the people have lived here. And then many of the respondents, most of the respondents were owner-occupied residents. And then just a little bit more on the demographics. So here's where I wanted to get to, the key themes. So as we're building your comprehensive plan and all the important things it does, it's helping us guide future growth and development, helping you with that decision-making of where to grow, how to grow, what infrastructure needs for the future. Housing being one of those top topics. Community character, city services, really some of those other quality of life things, in addition to parks and recreation. Also, a strong understanding of how important economic development is, especially, what was brought up earlier, you know, we're unsure of what the state will do to us cities over time with our revenue streams. So how do we grow our pie? And then transportation, mobility, and safety. So, that was a lot to throw at you. I hope I went quick enough, or not too quick. I'm happy to go back over anything. Anything, any surprises? You know, anything from your takeaways? Anything that you thought was surprising, or anything I didn't cover that you were like, gosh, I've been hearing this, why isn't that in your results?
I was a little surprised not to see more on what I would call assisted living housing or nursing home housing. And maybe that's because those folks couldn't be there to participate, I don't know. But I would have thought that might have been a bigger need when you look at this being such an attractive place for people to retire to and the end of life set.
And I think that's a really important thing to bring up for us, and just to help remind us top of mind, is that that can be a very important housing strategy to actually open up some housing availability. That sometimes we, as seniors, may not have that next step of housing they want to move to, whether it's independent townhomes or assisted living or something like that. And then I especially with your strong medical services here, very strong medical services, you are geared to attract brand new seniors that may want to move here. Des Moines may be a little too big. This community may be their size, especially if they're moving to the state or the region, as we do see with grandparents wanting to be closer to their kids and their grandchildren. And so I think ultimately that will be a strategy within your plan. Anything else for me? Any questions about the process?
What's the timeline to finish the project?
Yeah, so perfect timing on that. So here through till spring, we are working with your city staff as well as your technical advisory committee on the draft chapters. There's quite a bit to it. Comprehensive plans tend to be a little thick, and we're trying not to be, make it too large of a document. But we'll work with your committee to go through that. And then we're looking to then, in the spring, come back at a joint workshop to share with you, as well as your planning commission, a draft. This is what we've come up with so far. Very much what I want to call an 80% draft. I hate to give you a 100% draft because then you think we can't change it. Because what if we miss something really important? I want you to know we're gonna make sure it gets added in. We also then need to have that public open house. Again, as a draft, we want to roll this back out to the community, say, did we hear you right? To make sure that everything's covered. And then we leave it open for a review and comment period. And then in the late summer, we do that adoption process. And so if I advance the next slide here, we finalize the draft, and then the public hearing process, it first goes to your planning commission. They hold a public hearing, review it, consider it, and they send forward you their recommendation for the plan, any edits to it, changes, and then you receive it as a final plan for your consideration also at a public hearing. And then we give you some of your plan deliverables, but that next phase that runs right after that, and that's into the fall, is then the zoning code update and subdivision regulations. What are those very specific things we want to update, tweak, address to hit some of those key initiatives, goals, big picture ideas within the comprehensive plan, to make sure that as there's a development project or redevelopment project, that you have the rules and tools in place to make sure you're getting what you want out of it. So more to come.
I guess one more question. Is there any look back at our last comprehensive plan included in this, what marks were hit and what marks weren't?
Yes, absolutely. And so it's great to build upon your past planning effort. Comprehensive plans, this lecture always given in the beginning of the process. Comprehensive plans do have a shorter shelf life. We are looking 20, 30, 40, 50 years into the future. We're really trying to guess far out, but they tend to get stale at about 10 to 15 years. So you're right on schedule with that with your current update. So we build upon that work from your current plan of what's it, and we work through with your city staff as well as your advisory committee, your technical advisory committee. What are the current vision, goals, key initiatives? What's occurred, what can we check off the list, what needs to carry forward, and frankly, what's changed? Some things that generally change that we've seen over time is really that emphasis on housing. It's becoming more top of mind as housing costs, just at all prices, are hard. It's harder to do, as well as just the change on how retail works. We've seen so much change in the retail economy and how retail works today in the world that our plans have had to adjust to that. And so those would be two significant changes from your current plan, but definitely we build upon that past planning work and frankly some of the other initiatives you had.
Okay, anything else? A lot of info, thank you.
All right,
Thanks for
thank
being
you so
here,
much.
appreciate your work. Look forward to the final outcome here eventually.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, next item on the list to discuss or look at is our city council procedure rules review. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've had the council procedural rules for several years on this, and what we are, tonight's session is we want to make sure that we presented them to council and talk about any proposed adjustments. It is important to note that the city attorney has reviewed the proposed rules this evening. So once again, tonight is just an open discussion on how we conduct our meetings. That's ultimately the purpose of the procedural rule, to make sure we clarify any questions, or if there's any changes, that we discuss those changes. So we're looking for feedback on the current procedural rules.
Okay. Any feedback on procedural rules?
We'll take it. Silence means it's working.
You haven't made any changes in here, have you?
No. Mandy, I should say before no, but I'll let you answer that question. Maybe there is some slight changes.
The only recommendation was the third bullet point. We had a lot of confusion during the last presidential election as to why we didn't reschedule the council meeting. So the recommendation is to just add the local word in the rules. The reason for that is because a lot of the council members, when they run and there's a local election, they want to be at the courthouse for the results. So that was the whole basis for having it in the procedural rules for a local but not a presidential election.
So the word local isn't in there right now, just an
Correct.
election, it says.
And it caused quite a bit of confusion during the last presidential election.
So yeah, if you want to consider any changes to how we, this is mostly our meeting procedures.
Yes.
If we want any changes, we need to make suggestions.
It really heavily follows Robert's rules of order, and decorum in council chambers and such. There have not been substantial changes to it for quite some time because it's been working well. But every 2 years when we review this, we have Christine look at it just to make sure there's nothing legally that needs addressed to.
Okay? I would agree, silence probably means it's happy with how the meetings are run.
I was wondering, I think that's been added the last time, that code of civility, should that be included as maybe the intro to this at all?
We certainly can nest it into this. It would make sense to go hand in hand.
Well, there are rules of conduct right at the end. Conduct and decorum, Rule 38.
So maybe that could be in there somewhere,
Yeah.
in that section.
Yes, I could easily add it to as Rule 39. It goes really hand in hand with Rule 38, and then that document would have a place within this. I think that's a great idea.
Okay? Anything else? Any updates for future agenda items? You've talked a lot about some of the stuff already.
Yeah, we've talked quite a bit this evening, Mr. Mayor. It's a busy time at the City of Pella. We have several items on the agenda coming up here within, I'd say, the next 30 days. So we anticipate these meetings will be rather lengthy in the future on it. But if there's anything else that's not listed up on the board, if you have questions, we'd be more than happy to answer any questions on upcoming projects.
When do we have to have the certified budget done? In
I'd
April?
Brian, do you want to answer that question?
So we have to have our preliminary tax certified to the county by March 5th. And that public hearing scheduled for the end of March. The final budget's due April 30th.
Okay, any questions, suggestions? Otherwise, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Hopkins and Banstra, all in favor, please say yes, opposed no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
We are adjourned.